Welcome to our first edition of Community Connection. I'm Dr. Noreen Leshak, Superintendent of the South Plainfield School District, and our guest tonight is Mayor Matthew Anesh of South Plainfield, so thank you so much for joining us. We are embarking on new territory here in our school district, in our community, as a result of what's going on with the coronavirus. So Mayor, I'd like to have a conversation with you about what's going on in the borough and what we're doing in terms of dealing with the virus as we're moving on.
Absolutely.
So let's hear a few things about how you're preparing the borough for our handling our coronavirus epidemic.
Sure. One of the first things that we put into place was actually the closing of our senior center. So everybody knows that anyone with a compromised immune system, any kind of chronic illness, and the elderly, those are the most vulnerable population that's been identified at this point. So a week ago on March 12th, we decided to shut down the senior center completely. Following that Saturday, other government buildings shut down as well. So our public library shut down, and then also our PAL, our recreation building, was shut down as well. As we roll into this week on Monday, we made the determination, just based on what was going on throughout the country, throughout New Jersey and the tri-state area, the whole region here, we decided to limit the interaction of Borough Hall to residents by appointment only. So that's the status that we're in right now, and we continue to operate that. And I'm sure you've seen a lot of directives coming out from the federal government, from the state, from the county, that are putting restrictions on a lot of what we do. And in fact, you can look to extreme examples, on the West Coast, where they really have shelter in place.
Right.
So we're hoping we don't get to that point, but I think what we want to do is we want to make sure that we are, engaging in responsible social distancing and making sure that we make all the precautions necessary so that we don't end up having, just an exponential increase in the amount of cases where we've seen in some other areas.
Right. Let's take a step back. I want to ask you again about the senior center. So are we, as a borough, still able to feed those seniors that had been coming in? And
we are. So all of the programs that ran out of the senior center, as far as Meals on Wheels, those are continuing today. We've actually seen an increase in seniors requesting that, which wouldn't be shocking to most of us, right? In addition, what I think I'm most proud of is our senior director and the staff at the senior center are daily engaging with our seniors, the ones that they know that are most in need, and really just extending it to all of the, as many of the 500 members as they can. They're reaching out by phone, just checking on them daily. Ones that they know that they might not have family nearby or anybody at home. So they are keeping that interaction. But we've obviously closed, non-essential. I gotta watch when I say non-essential things. Sort of be bingo, Zumba classes, things like that. All of what make the senior center a focal point in the community, unfortunately, have to come to a halt. But the senior center is still staffed. Seniors can pick up the phone, or even if you're not a senior and you're not a member of the senior center, you can still pick up the phone, call the senior director, and ask for help and advice and guidance that way. So we're there, ready to help. That is the plan going forward on for the entire borough, unless something happens that we don't need. But obviously, we want to keep individuals and people's access to government alive and well.
well, listen, that's fantastic that at least they have that connection and they know that they have some support if they need to reach out. Unfortunately, some of our seniors don't have anybody else in the area, so at least they know that they have the borough that they can reach out to. We do have some seniors who are tech savvy in some cases, and I know the district is going to be doing some community videos that mindfulness happens to be one of them, and obviously we're going to, in our partnership with the borough, share them on the borough website so that the seniors can take advantage of that too. How about DPW? Everything's working the same as far as?
Yeah, everything DPW is for the most part operating as normal. We are taking a look today at curtailing some of the bulk pickups. This was a program that we instituted, probably several years ago, 8 years ago or so. Pickups on demand, where you can kind of call and schedule a pickup right at your house. Again, we're trying to do responsible social distancing. That goes with our employees as well. We don't think there's necessarily a great risk in picking up bulk, but we do want to curtail that for the immediate time. So to kind of offset the impact of that, what we are looking at doing is increasing the hours that are at the yard waste site. So residents, if they still have the ability and want to get rid of some of their bulk, they can go down. I think we've got a couple Saturdays that are already pre-scheduled. We may look to expand those. And I think we're going to open it up every Wednesday for the foreseeable future so that residents can go down there and get rid of some of those items.
Okay, and you had mentioned that the Borough Hall is closed only for appointment.
Yes.
What type of services would you make an appointment for? I mean, obviously some things can wait, so you're not going to have appointment for some general business, but I know tax season is coming up.
Yeah, people still need copies of their tax documents, property tax forms, whether senior freeze forms. We do expect that the state's going to put a lot of extensions on some of these things, so we don't think that it's necessarily going to be that imperative that some of these things get done. But regardless, marriage licenses, death certificates, all of these essential, functions of municipal government, we'll make sure that our clerk is there, and I'll be at Borough Hall, and our administrators there. We'll have Borough Hall staffed. They can pretty much do anything. We're going to look at some stuff that might not be, essential. If there's any kind of building permits that are required, whether they are commercial, whether they are for health establishments. Anything that is of the utmost need will take place. We are trying to facilitate all of the non-critical features as well, and we're going to look to develop. We've already developed a questionnaire that our inspectors can ask residents just to make sure that they're verifying that they haven't been traveling, that they might not be a high-risk category, because it goes both ways. We don't want to send somebody into a house to do, an inspection, let's say, of a water heater or electrical. Or some of these things can be put off, and I think we expect fully that the state government will allow, deferments on that.
Right.
It makes sense to kind of put those off while you can.
Right.
Again, it's both ways. We don't want to have an instance where somebody goes into your house and potentially gets you sick, whether you have an elderly parent or living with you. And same thing, we don't want to have somebody that might be sick that ends up affecting somebody at the borough. So we're going to take it as case by case, but for the most part, I would say borough government is functioning pretty much as close to business as usual as we can get.
Right, I mean, it's great, we're trying to keep a sense of normalcy.
We are.
So, and we will put the phone number to Borough Hall at the end of this program, so we'll be able to have the number up there. Unfortunately, our school district has already received a number of phone calls from people in our community letting us know that because of this, maybe they were service workers or whatever their position was, they've lost their job.
Yep.
And they're struggling. I know that we had just sent out an alert letting our families know that we're changing the setup for distributing the breakfast and lunch here in the district. Is there anything that the borough is working on? I know you do have a food pantry. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
So the food pantry is operating as normal. Again, you can call the number. It's still going to operate out of the senior center. Ms. Barry's available, ready, and willing to help. So no changes with that for the foreseeable future. Again, we have Sacred ShopRite in town, who is very kind in donating some food to the borough as well. All of that is continuing. So yes, any residents in need, especially if it's food, any of the social services should continue to operate as normal.
Great. We actually had reached out to our nursing staff and discussed with them different ways that they could provide support to the community in terms of the coronavirus and general, health issues. So we'll be also sharing that with the borough so that we can make sure that everybody is well covered and able to answer questions. So we're actually going to have an area where the public can write in questions or call in questions, and we'll make a bank of those questions and then have answers so that anything that any of our residents need will be answered. Also, as far as the food service, I know that we have the food pantry. A lot of people have asked us about that already. And as a partner, I know you and I talked about maybe we could figure something out in order for us to have our community maybe start providing a little bit more food, because I think at this point we are going to start tapping into what's there, and unfortunately people are going to be hit hard. I wanted to talk to you about our local businesses and what that means to our local businesses.
So it's tough for local businesses. The state and federal government are putting restrictions on businesses that we must comply with, and so that goes through each municipality, right? So we know certain businesses are exempt, pharmacies, supermarkets, the like essential retail outlets are exempt. Pretty much everything else is not. So whether you're a restaurant, as of 8 o'clock last week, or a couple of days ago, you can no longer have patrons sitting inside the restaurant. Same thing goes for bars. That's putting a tremendous strain, as you can imagine, on these small businesses and even the larger businesses and franchises in town, from fast food to normal sit-down restaurants. That's tough. I know a lot of businesses in town are being very creative. 50% off deals that you're seeing, trying to encourage people to eat out if they might not normally. So there's a lot of moving parts going on here. And again, it's not just the restaurants and the bars. It's a lot of the service industries as well, small businesses that aren't expected to see a lot of people, put in non-essential or non-critical items. But we're also seeing it from larger establishments and other, the retail outlets. I think just today, or it was last night, I think Dick's Sporting Goods, which is, it's a large corporation, but employs a lot of people in town. They are shutting down, I think, until April 2nd. Home Depot is scaling back their hours. They're still staying open for essential, things like hot water heaters and other things that people might need. They're scaling back their hours to now closing at 6 p.m. Remember, the governor has, it's not going to call it a curfew, but they're recommending that non-essential travel be eliminated from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. I think what we're hopeful is that the residents can kind of gather together and support in greater detail some of these local establishments that are still open, like the restaurants and such. We do have an economic development page. We can get a list of all of these restaurants that are out there. I'm sure they're going to be doing a lot of advertising as well. So we do wish them the best, and they're ready to support them. But we also realize that there's some residents that are going to be in need as well.
Right.
Dollars are going to be tight on the residents' side as well. So we are expecting lots of assistance starting from the federal government, coming through the state down. I think there's already some economic stimulus packages that were passed today. And I think a lot of that will have impact to not only businesses, but also to residents in a number of ways and different fashions.
And I know you and I had spoken the other day about possibly coming up with some type of a fundraiser, a community fundraiser, where we can not only help our local businesses, but then have that in turn help our local families. And
Yes.
that is going to start coming up quickly. Unfortunately, this is impacting a lot of people, so we have to keep our community in mind, and we have such a strong community here, and the amount of phone calls, and I'm sure you're getting them at Borough Hall, the amount of phone calls we're getting, what can we do, how can we help? We actually had a number of people reach out to us and say, can we help the students with their lunch funds to make sure that people can be paid? So we just have some really amazing people here in South Plainfield, and I know between the district and the borough, we're going to come up with something that will, be able to support our community. So that leads us into something else that I wanted to talk to you about. We also are talking about, and again, you and I had spoken about this, coming up with a community event that would unite, the community as a whole. And I'm going to ask you, I know you and I spoke in detail, but we are not going to really let anybody else know about it until Monday. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to do something where we're starting the buzz. We want the buzz to get around town. We're going to have an announcement on Monday, and it's going to be announced to all of our students during their class time on Monday. Right after it's announced to the students, we are going to release it to the rest of the community on the Borough webpage, on our district webpage, on Facebook, and we are also going to get it out immediately onto the news outlets, so we'll have it on our TAP, and we'll reach out to the Observer. And TAP actually has been fantastic and putting up everything in a very timely manner, as well as the Observer getting out whatever they can for us. So we just want to make sure that we keep the buzz and make sure that people know what we're trying to do, that we're going to have a big community event next week, and the announcement will be on Monday. Now, I don't know, I'm sure you couldn't help it, but you just wanted to tune into the board meeting last night. We did a virtual board meeting. How are you handling your council meetings?
I actually missed it, but I'm going to go and take a look at it.
I'll get you your own copy.
Thank you. But we were very interested in that. A lot of the council members and Administrator Cullen and our borough clerk were as well. It's something over the years we would like to have expanded the accessibility of meetings to the public, because we know in reality not a lot of people just tend to go to a council meeting for whatever reason. So it was very interesting in seeing what you guys were doing and the technology that you were employing. So
it went well, but I have to tell you, everything shows up.
Yeah,
when you're that close up there.
It's true. Well, so we're looking at how we can tweak that and do it a little bit differently.
Little mask on your face,
right.
Stuff like that. I think I might have needed.
Right, but well, so we had a meeting this past Monday, and this was just as a lot of the restrictions in the state were coming on. So we did hold that meeting, but unfortunately there was not the community involvement that, even the small community involvement that we normally have wasn't really there. So we're looking at, I think we're going to look to possibly leverage, do a shared service with what the Board of Education is using. I think it's Zoom.
Yes, we use Zoom.
Zoom, and then also try and see how we can kind of leverage that going forward and just kind of making public meetings more accessible. What we don't want to have is, look, we have nothing to hide. The borough operates in an open manner. These are, obviously trying times, but we want to make it, we don't want to, even though we have Borough Hall open, we have it open by appointment only. We probably could facilitate a council meeting with having a limited audience. And normally the normal type of audience that would go to a meeting. We realize that in these times, there's going to be more interest and more questions from the public, and so we don't want to be shutting individuals out. So I don't know if you guys experienced that, a lot more questions as to what was going on, but I would figure that would be the case. And so yes, we want to leverage some kind of online technology.
We actually had at our board meeting, we had the opportunity for the public to call in, and then we also had chat. We didn't receive any input from the public, but I think it's because at the board level, at least any questions that were sent in either via email or they called the board office, they were responded to immediately.
Okay.
And that may be something you'd experienced, because if somebody wanted to know an answer to something, they had probably would have already reached out to the borough. But there is the avenue where you can ask questions while the meeting's on, so it's a full meeting. Okay. And you have the opportunity to respond. It worked very, very well. It's a great way for more people to be involved.
Absolutely.
And that we do have the meetings are up on our cable channel.
Yes.
So, we do have that as well. You mentioned a couple things about shared services, and I'm not exactly sure if the public knows how many partnerships we do have working together. So if you want to talk a little bit about those.
No, I mean, nothing in specific. I would just, look, we've had ever since I was elected mayor, and I'm not taking all the credit. There's been superintendent. You've been great as a superintendent.
Thank you.
Been very engaged and looking to work with the borough. But we've done everything to help with plowing and you name it. There's a whole host of partnerships that we look at, and I think that's part of the success and why South Plainfield is a little bit more affordable than other towns around here. Is that on both sides we look at every dollar that's being spent. Can we leverage the power of the other entity, right? Can we leverage the school board? Something that the school's doing, and make that service a little bit more affordable and efficient to the residents of town, because we may slice up the tax dollar in a couple of different ways, but to them it's all the same thing.
Right. And we're here to serve them.
Absolutely. So I think that's key, and that's paramount. I know we've got this shared services committee that I think works well and does a lot of the heavy lifting, but we're always willing and open to kind of chart new areas and new grounds where the borough and the Board of Education can work together. I think that's the smart thing, and I'm shocked if any community in the state of New Jersey is not looking for ways to make that more and more evident.
Well, I have to thank you and the council. We've had a wonderful relationship, at least in the length of time that I've been here. We've created more opportunities for shared services, and it's just working really well. So I have to, kudos to you and the council for working with me as the superintendent and our board. So I do have to thank you for that.
My pleasure.
I mean, we really do have a wonderful community here, and I thank you as part of this. When we discussed putting together this program for community connection, I did speak with the mayor and the council, and we looked forward to opportunities to provide information to the community about what's going on in town. We had a very different plan for our first episode, but we had to react to what was happening. So I do appreciate you coming in and having the opportunity to talk about what's going on. As a community, we are strong. We are going to stay strong, And we are here to support you. And again, I'd like to thank you for being my guest tonight. And I look forward to many, many more conversations with you and the borough, and reaching out to our businesses and our community members, and bringing you into the fold on what's happening here in South Plainfield. So thank you very much,
I
Mayor.
appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and I hope you'll join us on the next episode.